So who are the people who stand behind you? Who are those people who generously stand behind who you are and lift you up to be better than even you thought you could be? For me, it was literally the people who sat behind me in the pew in my childhood congregation. Their names were Hans and Betty. They were German immigrants who had come to America to make their way and find their place and live in a church that pursued peace. They ended up in our congregation, and they sat behind me every single Sunday. I remember Betty's voice singing the hymns with gusto and with fervor. And she never had anything bad to say about anyone. And after every service, she would talk to me about what I was doing in school and how things were going. Hans, on the other hand, was a little bit more quiet and stern, with a pencil mustache and glasses and nicely trimmed suit. He would mostly shake his head in agreement with whatever Betty was saying. But Hans was generous to me in a way that changed my life. When my family was in crisis and my father was no longer a part of our household, an upcoming event was on the congregational calendar. It was the father-son banquet. Now, I knew that my father wasn't present and wasn't going to be able to attend with me at this event. So I put it out of my mind. But one day I got a phone call, and it was Hans on the other end of the phone. And he said, "David, you know my son lives in another state and is not able to go with me to this particular father-son banquet. And I wonder if you'd do me the pleasure of attending with me as my guest." And so we went to that father-son banquet together, Hans and I. I sat next to him. Now, I don't remember what was on the menu that day, and I don't remember what the entertainment was, but I do remember that generous man who sat next to me, who gave of himself to be present with me at that time. Now, later, when I was a teenager, our youth group got the idea that we wanted to establish soccer groups and learn how to play soccer. Now, this was in a time before in America where teenagers knew how to play soccer or what the rules were, but we got this idea in our head and we started establishing teams, and none of us really knew how to play the game. And so we thought, who could help us? And the only person that came to mind was the one European in our congregation, Hans, who was in his 70s at the time. And every Saturday, Hans would come out with cleats and shorts and a t-shirt and teach us how to pass the ball and how to stay in bounds and how to do the rudimentary parts of playing soccer together. He taught us how to be a team. He generously gave of his time and his talent to help us succeed. I found out years later it was Hans and Betty who financially gave to our congregation to support our youth group throughout most of my teenage years. Now, they lived in a modest home. I know because I was there many times. They invited me in. Their hospitality also moved me. At times where I asked for the laying out of hands for emotional issues or sicknesses, Hans seemed genuinely happy to help me. They sat behind me at church every Sunday, but more importantly, they sat behind me in life. And so I ask the question today, who am I sitting behind? Who am I generously giving of myself to in order to see their discipleship grow? If the mission of Jesus Christ means something to us, then it becomes part of our giving. It becomes part of our nature in life to give what we have experienced, to take what God has been generous with us and turn it into something as simple as sitting behind someone and supporting them through life. May we all be behind someone, is my prayer.